So, as I've said before, I'm going to start covering what these reform councils now get up to, because, quite frankly, this is going to be so much of a teachable moment. In the past, I have tried really hard to really educate people on what goes on their local council. And I'm not going to lie, it is very difficult. Local councils are a labyrinth of rules, um, regulations, procedure that you have to go through. It's not 100% easy to really describe what goes on. And I bring this up every time. This is a very good book. If you live in a reform council, I'd go get this. It's very good. Paint your town red. Can't recommend it enough. However, I think now that some of these reform guys have now got into local councils, as we'll see in a moment, Nottinghamshire has now elected its first reform UK leader. So people in Nottinghamshire, when things start to go wrong, the name Mick Barton will become synonymous in your household because he's responsible for all the stuff that is probably about to go wrong in your area. And for that, you have my sympathies. But this is a very good teachable moment because this is really, I think, going to lead to a case where a lot of people, and especially quite delightful for me, where I get to educate people about what goes on local councils and why you should really care about who's sitting on your local council, what it is they actually intend to do, and what powers your local council actually has. Because a lot of things are about to go very wrong for these reform councils. And when they do, oh boy. But at least we'll learn something altogether. So, before we go diving into this, please do click on the Patreon page, the Buy Me a Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, the Patreon page, all that good stuff down below. Click the like, click the share button, hit the subscribe button if you are new and you want to follow along with all this madness that is going to happen now on local councils, especially if you are in one of those local councils, because I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below. And with that said, on to this. So, this came up in the Nottinghamshire Live. And as I said earlier today, or well, last time actually, we covered this. This week in particular, you are going to be seeing a lot of these leaders elected. And in Durham, as we covered last time with the case of Darren Grimes, fighting apparently like rats in a sack to decide who gets the coveted leadership position. But however, in Nottinghamshire, this is now your council leader, Mick Barton. Good luck, because as you're about to see here, his other, shall we say, councillors don't have a very high opinion of him. And the fact that, as you will see in a moment, not a single other person in this council that is in the leading core that is now going to make all the decisions has a single ounce of council experience. As I've said before, what could possibly go wrong, right? Anyway, let's dig into this. So, Nottinghamshire Live. Who is Mick Barton? The ex-miner, now named Nottinghamshire's first Reform UK leader. And oh boy, I highly suspect we're going to be seeing a lot of this in the future. So, after Reform UK won a convincing majority in the May Council elections, rumours, of course, began to circulate who would be the next person to lead Nottinghamshire would be. Over 40 councillors were elected from Nigel Farage's party to the Nottinghamshire County Council in a day which saw the Conservatives lose their very narrow grip on the authority. With one, and of course, with only one of the influx having been elected, previously actually sitting as a councillor before the May elections, questions began arising about now the potential lack of leadership experience among the Reform majority. And oh boy, this is what's happening in all these councils. Like, they've got lucky in some places that some of them were ex-conservatives, but even then, we're hearing about the fact that those who were like true UKIPers, but true reformers hate them, and that there's now a lot of friction forming between those groups, apparently. So that's ultimately something as well to look forward to. Anyway, critics, now including the former Conservative council leader Sam Smith, have also now questioned the party's experience of running services, saying that their success was now due to the widespread disgruntlement over the national policy issues such as immigration, which is something we keep on hearing echoed. I've spoken to a couple of people of what went on in Doncaster. They've said people just wanted to give Labour kicking over the winter fuel allowance. But yeah, widespread disgruntlement over immigration, voting reform, to quote, solve immigration, not going to solve it. Not going to solve it. But, you know, they will go on, I'm sure, a ton of unhinged rants about this. And we'll be seeing those probably come out in the local news as well very quickly, if not probably video on many occasions as well. But of course, Mick Barton, the former miner and business owner from Mansfield, announced as the Nottinghamshire County Council's new leader, says that he and his colleagues have, quote, a magnificent skill set to run the authority. Yeah, not one, shall we say, of the intake of those new councillors has actually ever had local government experience. While, of course, he only became a county councillor just weeks ago, having taken the Mansfield East seat from the Conservatives, Barton has, of course, spent more than 20 years in the Nottinghamshire politics. After finishing school, he began working down the Mansfield and Welbeck coal mines, where he spent 10 years before setting up his own flooring supply and fitting company in the 2000s. 3 years later, he began his foray into politics, being elected the Mansfield District Council, where, of course, he still serves as a councillor today. During that time, he's held an array of cabinet roles, including deputy leader, and was the candidate for Mansfield mayor elections back in 2023. So, again, you've got one guy who's had experience. He served as deputy leader, and by the seams of it, not too much else. Through most of his tenure, it continues, at the District Town Council, he was, of course, a representative of the Mansfield Independent Party, formerly known as the Mansfield Independent Forum. So this guy sat as an independent. He wasn't even part of a main party, which, just like national politics, does give you slightly more of a say on a town council, but not too much. But back to this. So once, of course, a very significant force in local politics that controlled the Mansfield District Council now for years, the party eventually ended in 2024 when Barron, along with his only other two remaining colleagues, Councillor Barry Answer and Councillor Martin Wainwright, defected to Reform UK. Surprise, surprise. Councillor, of course, Andre Camilleri, who then served as the Conservatives on both Nottinghamshire County Council and the Mansfield District Council, has known Mick Barton, and this is where it gets interesting, for more than 20 years, saying, you've got to wish him all the best and hope that he does well. But I do not think he realises how difficult the job is. Yep. And that's what's going to come crashing into a lot of these guys, because, oh boy, do they talk about local politics as if they can just click their fingers and something will just magically happen. It will just magically all get done. Oh no, that's not how local politics works. But as we'll soon see, they're going to run into big problems. Watch them start to blame council workers, that I am already guaranteeing you, they will start to blame council workers for all their failings. That it's the blob that's in the town hall that's refusing to work with us, that's refusing to follow through our policies. They're the ones that are making us fail. I wonder where they're going to get that messaging from. Anyway, she did continue saying, he has not had experience of that job before, and the Mansfield Independents didn't do that well here in the district council. My experience of him that he has got no deep experience running any major department with any big budget, but that's not his fault. There is a huge budget he's now going to be responsible for, and it's not all about flag waving or about stopping boats. It is about looking after all the people, the roads, the potholes. I don't want him to do poorly, but it is a bigger job than I think he realizes. And he doesn't realize the depth of what he is going to have to do and where he's going to have to fill big shoes. We don't see, of course, eye to eye, but let's hope he comes good. What a resounding endorsement. What a resounding endorsement of this guy who is now the leader of this council. Anyway, after years, of course, of serving on the Manchester District Council, a now, quote, lower tier authority which deals with rubbish collection, housing, and planning applications, Mick Barton is now in charge of the, quote, upper tier county council. That means he will be heading up a group of over 66 different councillors, a budget of more than 600 million, and responsibilities ranging from education, social services, to transport. But he believes he's up for the task. Oh boy, are they not. And you're about to witness just how bad it's not going to go well for them. Like I say, he doesn't realize the depth of what we do, and he's now filling some very big shoes. Yep. I don't want him to do poorly, but it's a bigger job than I think he realizes, saying from one of his, former councillors that, served with him. How well do you think this is all going to go? Anyway, but this is what he had to say. I've sat on the cabinet before. I've led people before in the council. I've been the deputy mayor of Mansfield. I know how to bring the improvements if needed. I basically know all the rules and regulations. Does he? We'll see. We'll see. The new leader says his top priorities are potholes, childcare, and healthcare, and his deputy has now been named as Dr. John Doddy, the only, of course, other reform representative at the other county council before the elections. A former Conservative, he was expelled from the party back in July of 2024 after declaring to stand against the incumbent Tory MP Daniel Hannan in Boxtow during the 2024 general election, before then joining Reform in January. As for the rest of the new cabinet, Barton said, you'll see exactly the sort of talent we've got in our group. Oh, I'm sure we're about to witness all this talent. I'm sure we're about to witness all this talent. We've got 2 doctors, a lawyer, 6 ex-military, a couple of ex-policemen, nurses, mental health workers. The skill set is magnificent, and I'm fairly certain we've got the capabilities in that group to make big changes. Again, just because you were a lawyer or a doctor, an ex-policeman, you've got a budget of more than 600 million you are now responsible. As it said earlier, ranging from education to social services to transport. What experience and skill set are they going to bring to the table as a lawyer to that type of thing? Or even a doctor? Oh, doctor? What were they? GP? How does that qualify them for helping to try and figure out the mess that social services are in this country? And remember, run mostly by local councils. this is going to go wrong so very quickly. And so many of these councils. And one of the big things I keep on pointing out is that Nigel Farage thinks he can control all these councils from, the Reform office in London, and that they'll be able to just dictate them. That's not going to go well at all. Because if anything, and if you know or have any experience with local politics, that isn't going to work. That is going to be an absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. So let's have a look at this. Let's finish this off. So in the terms of course, the direction for the authority itself, the Reform UK leader Farage has now previously suggested that diversity, equality and inclusion, DI and net zero officers could lose their jobs at his party councils now across the country. Good luck with the unions if you start to do that. Also, this is kind of important, diversity, equality, inclusion, because what happens when these councils start getting sued for, those reasons might be important about that. The net zero officers, that is so foolish, especially when, and this is one of the big dumb things I've seen. You look at Hull, the regional mayor, Luke Hall, who just got in, and that region in particular, one of the big growing industries in that area is net zero green stuff. What is he going to do where he's going to be told by Nigel Farage, oh yeah, you've got to cancel all that stuff? He said that, he'll try and stick up for it, but something like, I don't know, 2,000 plus jobs in the region that he's now responsible for are tied to that stuff. Again, he's going to be a disaster on all his own terms, but we'll see. We'll see what happens when we get to that. So, Mr. Barton, of course, it continued, refused to rule this out in Nottinghamshire, saying that I've only been in the post 30 minutes until I sit down with my colleagues. We'll look into that over the next couple of weeks and months, and we'll see what decisions we've got to make now for the betterment of people of Nottinghamshire. I think what is going to happen, and this is my prediction of what I think is going to happen on a lot of these councils. They are going to double down and start cutting stuff like crazy. They are, just like we've seen with Elon Musk over in America with Doge. They're going to cut stuff they're not even realizing what that stuff does, because they've got no idea. And then it's all going to start to go wrong. And I guarantee you now, they're going to go slashing budgets, sacking people, getting rid of people, slimming departments, slashing budgets. It's all going to go very, very wrong for them very, very quickly. So, however, the council, of course, seems to have very few staff members working solely on diversity, equity, and inclusion, but does employ at least one equalities officer. After the announcement of his appointment on Monday, May the 12th, Mick Barton is set to now be formally confirmed as a council meter at a meeting next week. And let's have a look at the comments. Yep, someone says here, they can't really fail. Their supporters aren't really bothered about all the local politics, just the culture war sloganeering. If they end up performing badly, the blame will, of course, be put on the woke communists or even net zero or any other number of reasons. Yep. Not too surprised. Not too surprised at that one. There's going to be some more good comments around here. So this is interesting. So not a reform supporter by any means, but the leader of the council, although chairing their group, is still, of course, beholden to the advice of senior officers. They don't, quote, create the decisions or sit there furiously drafting policy into the wee hours. They'll just guide the group which provides the political now steerer to the officers, who then will create the policies for the group now to approve and then take now to the full council. It's really not that difficult job, mainly to act now as a human shield for the group and their decisions. But ultimately, they are the ones in charge. They're the ones in control of all that stuff. They're the ones that are going to be approving and saying, yeah, this is now the policy we want you to draft. If they say no more net zero, that officer's got to take that. He's got to follow that direction. It's exactly like a minister telling a civil servant the same thing. This is now our policy. That is what you need to follow. That is the direction we want you to go in. So there's got to be. I wonder if there's any more, because sometimes this is where they go. So yeah, we'll see what happens on Nottinghamshire Council, but that's your guy now. Good luck. Good luck. Because when it all starts to go wrong, which oh boy will it, we're going to see this guy blame everyone but his own leadership or lack of skill set, shall we say. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think, of course, down below about all this. And if you do live in Nottinghamshire, what do you think now to this? Because, quite frankly, I would be worried about the state of your local services and any other range of things that your local council is responsible for. Now this guy's in charge. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And, of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.